Cool.
All right. So today on the podcast, we have Mason Berry joining us. He is a motion and graphic designer for Whiskey Design in Kansas City and a UCM alum. So welcome, Mason.
Thanks for having me, Riley.
Yeah, just to get us started, would you mind just telling us a bit about yourself, your background, kind of since you graduated from UCM, where has your career taken you?
So I grew up in Warrensburg, Missouri. And then UCM was a natural choice for me, and was interested in a creative career. And thankfully UCM has a pretty large selection of creative programs, but I selected a graphic design major, and UCM offers a reasonable route to double major in illustration. So that seemed like a good thing to try to get. And I was able to achieve that in 4 years, graduated in 2018, got my first professional design role out of college about a month after graduation, here in the Kansas City Metro in Lenexa, at a agency called Grapevine Designs as a graphic designer. And Grapevine was specializing in senior living advertising pieces for nationwide, for 2 and 3 by the time I was leaving, nationwide senior living communities. And I was making emails and flyers and managing the brand standards for that. Decided that I was happy to have that design role and learned a lot, but was looking for more creative opportunities in the Kansas City area, and started teaching myself some 3D skills to try to diversify myself in the marketplace. Some CGI stuff to layer on top of my graphic design and illustration skills. And then that helped me leverage my skills into a position at a local boutique agency called Whiskey Design. And I've been there for a little over a year now and been really enjoying that.
Very good.
Yeah, that's exciting. What an interesting career path that, early on in your career, you've already done some really interesting things. How did you recognize that there were needs in the market for your skills and for creative skills?
Well, from at what point? From graphic design or from this next step that I've taken?
I think maybe for your next step.
So, I, being a designer and being pretty in tune with the art world and commercial art, I was able to look at kind of the community that was around me in the area, and then absorb what was happening on social media and like the type of experimental things people were doing, and also gauge my interest and what I was interested in, and then come to the conclusion that based off of what I think would be cool to do and what I think the marketplace needs, especially in Kansas City, was able to come to the conclusion that 3D design in a graphic design context would be a really cool addition to the Kansas City marketplace, and was something that wasn't being tapped into nearly as much as it could be. And there's just so much opportunity when you incorporate those skills together. It's basically creates this, you can do anything. You can do, you can shoot commercials, you can do product photography, you can take your brands and apply them into an interest, either a realistic world, or you can create this whimsical world. It just really unlocks a set of skills that is missing for a lot of designers right now. And it was an exciting niche to figure out and explore. And I'm still doing that right now, but it's been pretty successful, and I've gotten good feedback from what I'm trying to do with it.
Well, that's really exciting. As kind of I have a side business on the side here that requires a lot of product photography and that kind of thing. I understand where you're coming from, and for sure I may be contacting you outside of this.
Oh
You
yeah.
might need to help me out a little bit. That's an area I've struggled with, so for sure those skills are needed.
Yeah, so Mason, you talked about kind of understanding the market and where you are in Kansas City. What kind of was your process, or how did you recognize that there was a need for this skill or this new area that you kind of devoted yourself to working on the side? Were you involved in any professional organizations or anything like that?
Right. So a lot of it is for me was intuition and keeping myself plugged into the community, both locally and as a whole, the graphic design industry. Um, so you need to kind of develop, you need to be plugged into a community, and then you kind of have to develop your own sense, a sixth sense of what the market requires. Um, and then you need to be able to make sure that that's going to lead you down a path at the end of the day that's going to be something you want to do for potentially the rest of your life. So it's a lot to manage, but it's definitely, like I said, there's steps that people can take. Getting plugged into the community, both locally and nationally, and seeing what the trends are and seeing what you're being drawn to. And then applying that to yourself and making sure that you're going in the right direction. So like, for example, I get like, I follow all of the artists on Instagram and on design. There's design social media specifically. I don't know how familiar you are with it. It's called Behance. It's by Adobe. It's just social media for designers and artists. There's also another one called Dribble. And I would just constantly see these big agencies or more niche down artists that were specializing in 3D that were incorporating design and illustration into their 3D work. And it was a really exciting thing to see, and something that at first, when I first started seeing that in college, I was like, it's not really taught in this area. New York and Chicago, and then Japan, they teach a lot. Some of the Asian countries, but in the Midwest, 3D design is a little lacking. And so that was kind of where I started to position myself. So I would just see these things that were amazing. I didn't think I could ever do because I just had a traditional graphic design skill set with the Adobe suite. And you're using to create these 3D things, it's a whole other language of programming knowledge to figure out how to get these things done. But with enough late hours and weekends, you get to a point where you actually know how to solve almost any problem, or at least know where to begin. And it's really exciting when you reach that point.
That's really cool. And you talked about how important it is to stay in contact with the community that you're in and to watch the trends and things like that. But how did you market, or how do you market your new skills in the 3D world?
Right. So when I was teaching myself these new programs and trying to incorporate them with my other professional skills, turning this hobby that I was learning into trying to turn it into a professional skill set. For me, what worked was creating projects that would be good learning experiences, like how to, like, specifically focusing on animation, and then focusing on character animation, and then focusing on building a better character, and then focusing on clothes, and then focusing on modeling a product, and then creating these projects that I was teaching myself, but I could hold myself accountable by being like, I'm going to post this on social media, get a response from the community. It's going to let them know that I'm doing this. I'm going to be able to generate more portfolio pieces, and I'm learning. So it's just like building a system that the feedback is exciting because people were recognizing that this isn't something that everyone does. And so I was the 3D guy. Like I still am like the 3D guy. I'm the guy, one of the few people in Kansas City that does that type of work. And so it's exciting for the community to have this new skill set coming around. And like, it's exciting for the people that came up with me to see someone they know doing something different.
Yeah.
And then I get the reward of hearing that feedback and teaching myself the new skill set, and then generating whatever I put on social media it's meant to showcase the work. And so that translates directly back into my portfolio as a professional creative, which is basically more important than my resume at the end of the day.
So do you have a social media platform that you use mostly, or do you use like all of the standard ones, or is there a different one? Or
I have most of them. Instagram is definitely the most active for me, creatively. And then LinkedIn would be secondary, to help be tapped into the business side of things, especially in Kansas City. LinkedIn used to not be as a robust community, but it's really the algorithm for engagement on LinkedIn is actually kind of more impressive these days, or better than Instagram in a lot of ways. If you can pull together a creative project that's worthy of a business platform, which can be challenging sometimes, but if you can get that pulled together on LinkedIn, it'll travel a lot farther usually than Instagram to people that aren't necessarily in your immediate network, which is good.
Yeah, for sure.
So Mason, do you have any advice for our viewers who are maybe trying to develop those new professional skills outside of their current workplace setting? Do you have any advice to them on maybe how do they pitch themselves to a new employer who might need these skills, or how do they kind of prove themselves through your experiences, how kind of you did that?
So I would say if you're in the position where you're looking to break into that next point, this is definitely the secondary part of my career. The first part was just my standard skill set, and now I'm becoming more of a specialist. So if you're at that point where you're becoming more of a specialist or looking into it, it's really about planning and understanding the application of your skill set, and everything that your skill set makes easier or more exciting for your employer as a creative. So yeah, it's basically telling the story of your skill set, and to do that you need to understand the application and need to understand what it takes for you to create work, exciting work. And so you'll have to be plugged into a community and understand how it's done professionally if someone's already doing something adjacent to what you want to do. And then you'll have to do some soul searching on the side and understand what you exactly want to do and what is exciting about it to you. Because as a creative, we're all in it at the end of the day because it's exciting to us. Because if it wasn't, this would be not a good job. Like this would be a lot of work for something that's not exciting. And that's what I think pretty much every person who is in a creative position, especially professionally, we have rejected most of the other jobs. We decided that we could not handle that. And because we're different enough that we need to have something to put our name at the end of the day that is exciting for us, or else we'll just like curl up and not know how to interact with the world.
Right.
Well, yeah,
exciting.
Yeah, that is. And I think that's some really good advice to our listeners and our participants in career readiness, if they're looking at how can they kind of position themselves in their market, in their career field, if they're moving from that generalist to specialist kind of roles as they get further along in their careers.
Yeah, and I think it was really great to talk about how, continuing to learn and stay on top of those trends that are coming so that you can position yourself in the forefront of that.
Yeah, it's definitely not the easiest route, but it is easy after you've done the work. After you've done the work, and you can just keep reminding yourself that you can teach yourself things. It's really empowering to feel like you can keep moving forward. But when you first, like, it's still happening as I'm still trying to differentiate myself in the market and keep ahead of trends because it's a really evolving field. So I still I'll open up a new program and just be completely daunted by it. And it feels like you're not going to be able to teach yourself again. But once you're able to close that loop again, or like learn that, at least those one or two things that get you started, it's the most incredible feeling. It makes you feel like you can do anything. And yeah.
Well, awesome. And if anyone watching this episode, if they wanted to see your work, where can they find that? Like on Instagram?
So my handle is my personal handle is SoPro Mason. And then my current employer posts a lot of my work. I don't post the work that I do at work on my personal channel usually. So if they want to see that, they can follow Whiskey Design for all sorts of good stuff. And yeah, I think those are the two best platforms to follow me right now. You can add me on LinkedIn too, Mason Berry. And yeah, I'll be, I think I'm going to do a talk at UCM in person in October for the art department. So look for that.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll have to make sure we share that.
Yeah, stop by and see us in Career Services when you're on campus.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mason.
Yeah,